You're one of these guys that just pisses me off because, like, you're not allowed to be good at everything. You're not allowed to be good at climbing and good at new TV genres and a good author. You can't do that, Bear. You can't not be great at everything.
Well, you're very kind. There are a lot of things I'm very bad at, honestly. If you ask my wife about my dancing, she would I feel I fail her every time we have to go near a dance floor.
Welcome to The Aggressive Life. You're about to hear a conversation I've been wanting to have for a long time with a trailblazer. Bear is coming to speak at Man Camp. He's going to be at Man Camp 2025. We were trying to iron out the details, and you'll hear I was needling him a little bit during the podcast. He is committed. He is in. It's going to be, I think, the best Man Camp we've ever had. Love to have you no matter where you're coming from in the country or the world. We had 7 countries outside the U.S. represented at the last Man Camp. You can go to mancamp.us to get more information or to actually sign up. It's going to be one for the ages. If you've never been, or if you've been 15 different times, this is going to be a different one. It's going to be a special one. I hope to have you there, and I hope to see you get the next level in your aggressive life. So let's get to Bear. Welcome to The Aggressive Life, Bear Grylls. Well, it's been said many times that the person I'm introducing really needs no introduction, but nonetheless, you're going to get one. His name is Bear Grylls. Bear's show, Man vs. Wild, came out at a time when I was living a relatively sedentary life, and me and my son just found it fascinating. It just helped you think about things you wouldn't normally think about. This guy with the former British Special Forces has really set a new course for a whole genre of TV that didn't exist before, and actually for millions and millions of people, set a new course with our relationship with the outdoors. So Bear and I have been talking for my people and Bear's people have been talking for a while about having him come to Man Camp. We'll talk a little bit about Man Camp, some really interesting stuff there, but that also coincides with an amazing book that he has, and just wanting to interact with a genuinely interesting person. So, welcome to The Aggressive Life, Bear Grylls.
I appreciate it, Brian. Nice to be with you. Thanks for the kind introduction. Yeah.
Well, good to be with you too. And you have the greatest background we've ever had on a podcast. Of course, Bear Grylls would be in the middle of the wild with beautiful blue lake behind you. Where are you right now?
Well, we live on a little island in North Wales in the UK. We're about... I don't know, what can you see behind you there? That's the mainland, so we're about 2 miles offshore, and here's our home, and the lighthouse just
cool,
behind there. Where's the finger? There's that. And I mean, to be honest, most of the year it is like really rainy, windy, wild here. There's a handful of days through the year it's like this. We take them and bank them, but so reception's always a little bit sketchy, but we're on 4G, and we're coming to you loud and strong and happy to be with you, yeah.
Loving it. Let's go back to the origin story, Bear. Well, first, one origin story is, how did you get your name? Like, you have the most manly name ever. Like, Bear Grylls. That's actually on your birth certificate, Bear Grylls?
Well, actually, I was christened Edward, but
okay.
I had an older sister who was always much more extrovert than me, and she decided, aged 8, that her baby brother was not going to have this name, and she called me Bear, and it always stuck. It endured everything from teachers to sergeant majors in the army and everything else in life. But I don't know, to be honest, when I was age 6, I used to hate it. I used to think, I just want a normal name. But I look back now and could have been worse. So yeah.
It's prophetic. It fits your brand. I was thinking like your parents, how did they get that in the birth certificate? Do they go, well, I really like to call him Tiger Hammer, but that one was taken. There was already a Tiger Hammer, or how about Wolverine Gun or something like that. It's an amazing, perfect name for you and your genre. I love it.
Actually, my parents were quite conventional, actually. I mean, I've
Really?
actually since had it added to my passport because everyone was always booking flights for me and stuff in that name, and I was always having issues. But we have 3 boys now, Shara, my wife, and I, and they have much more unusual names than I was originally given. So we have, Jesse, I suppose, for America, that's not unusual. But in the UK, no boys are called Jesse. So that's unusual.
Yeah.
We have Marmaduke, our middle son. And then we have Huckleberry, our youngest. So 3 boys. We always figure that Huckleberry, he might not get the job, but he should get the job interview at least. Same with Marmaduke, But they're good fun. They're good guys.
So you were in the British Special Forces. What was the link, or what was the seminal moment that had you start this whole new genre? How did that come to be?
Well, you're kind to say it like that. It never felt like that. To be honest, it was like, how did it start? It started, I left the army. I had a free fall accident whilst I was a soldier and had to leave the military after 5 years, which was a really sort of hard time for me because so much of my life was so physical. My job in the Special Forces was all the climbing and the skydiving, and suddenly I was in hospital for many months in braces and all of that, and then left, try to rebuild my life. My background when I was a kid is that my dad had been a commando. He taught me to climb at a young age. Climbing was such a huge part of my life then, still is, and I think after that hospital, after that accident, I just wanted to re-find my kind of identity, I suppose, at that age. And a huge dream of mine and my late dad had been Everest. And after the military and after I got out of that hospital, that's what I set my focus on, is like, I'm not just going to recover so I can walk again. I'm going to recover so I can climb again. And one day I'm going to try, God willing, to try and climb the highest mountain in the world. And, I eventually got a chance to be part of a team there. We had 4 climbers lose their lives whilst we were up there. So it was a kind of hollow victory in the end, to be honest. But eventually 2 of us reached the top. We came back from that. I wrote a book on what happened up there. And somebody at Discovery Channel in the States read it and said, we know your background with all the climbing and the survival stuff. Could we do a show where we drop you in the middle of nowhere with the bare essentials and we film what you do? And I was young, we were just married, trying to figure out life and earning a living. I was really unsure about doing TV. I actually said no 3 times to this producer. And eventually my wife, who's much smarter, and boy, I look back and the lesson is in life, listen to your wife. She said, just give it a go. You never know, you might like it. And we went to the Rockies. We shot a pilot episode, and it never felt like TV. We were jumping off cliffs and shooting down rapids, chasing snakes, all that good stuff. And eventually they put it out late at night with no marketing, and it's just the timing was right. And as you say, it just kind of flew. And that really launched, that was the start of my TV career. We did 8 seasons of that show. And I don't know, it was a privilege. It really was. It was, those are hard years for sure, but still to this day, same crew that filmed with me on that show are still filming with me on our Running Wild series, where we take these Hollywood folk away. And those friendships lasted a lifetime so far. So, yeah.
When you say those are hard years,
journey.
What was hard about it, if they were hard years? Just the filming schedule? You were still living on a shoestring? What was it?
Well, first of all, we were just having young kids as well, and I was just away all the time. And it was a small team, and there were so many near scrapes in those early shows. I remember one of our crew that we brought on at the start. He went, I'm doing 1 season of this, then I'm out. He goes, it's an amazing show, but you're not going to be alive at this rate in 2 years. And, we kind of joked about it, but actually probably 20 near times, really, I should have not walked away for some of those early episodes. And
really?
It was like, either you got to get smart and you got to you got to and I brought in some of my ex-military guys, and we increased the team a little bit, and we just took back a bit of control, and we started making the shows ourselves, and made sure also I wasn't away all the time. I was missing so many important things when our boys were young, and I thought, hold on, this isn't right. I've got to change the dynamic on this. And then, from about season 3 or 4 of that, we started to now own the shows, do it on our own terms with the people we like, when we want to go, and put the family first again. And really, since then, it's been, it's just been fun. It really has. Like, we do it, like I say, on our terms a bit more, and I work now for the fun of it. I love the adventure. I love our crew. It's been a privilege that's lasted many years and so many different shows. And and then, I don't know, I feel super lucky to have a job that involves adventure and trying to empower people to love the outdoors, love life, to be never give uppers, take a few risks.
Yes.
And have a streak of steel in there somewhere along the way. But also it's as much about learning also to keep your family close. That's being a good dad is much more important than any TV show, and get that side of life right as well, which has been a much more important journey, really.
Well, I wanted you on the aggressive life, not because you're an A-lister. I mean, every podcaster wants to have somebody who, can draw in some people. It wasn't that. It was that as I studied and have looked at your life, you really fit the vision we have here, which is taking control of things, making bold moves, pushing forward, not being a victim in your life, taking control of your life, trying new things. And, you just mentioning here how you did the filming, how you started that genre. This wasn't like, okay, guys, let's do something that isn't dangerous, but make it look dangerous. No, you're doing significant different things, and on different categories. We'll get into in a little bit here. Your book, you have an aggressive move to have the greatest selling book of all time, which I think is pretty audacious. I heard you say that. I'm like, I hope his ghostwriter is really darn good then. And I started reading your book again. I'll get into a little bit. I'm like, damn. This guy's a freaking great writer too. He actually writes, and it's totally opposite of the brand, if you will, of being outdoorsy, manly man guy. You're an artist who is an amazing writer. This is really unusual, right? For people to try different things, push in different areas, and actually have some effectiveness in it. What do you think about that?
Well, you're kind. I mean, I had a dad who was, like I say, he's no longer around now. But I look back now as a father myself, and I realized he got so many of the important things right, which was at school, you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the sportiest or cleverest, or, you just got to be a never give up, or you got to be kind and tenacious, and dogged and determined always wins out over talent. And I don't know, I kind of took that message for granted as a kid, but now I understand it, and he was right. And I don't know, I've never been scared to fail, never been scared to try and follow the dreams. I know that the only way to get to the good stuff is on the back of pain, struggle, doubt, fear, and failure. So I kind of embrace those things. And I've always tried to follow my heart, and that led me first into the military, then into the world of expeditions, and then into the world of TV. And I think the book stuff is a product of faith rather than anything else. I mean, the one constant that's been there through all my journey, to be honest, since I was a teenager, is that I don't want to do life on my own. Life is incredible. The outdoors is incredible. It's challenging. It's difficult. And I want to be on that edge, but I don't want to do it on my own. I know I'm more empowered when I have a connection to the Almighty in my heart. And that's the streak of steel that equips and it hardens and makes us effective in life. I always think of we're like a glove, and if you haven't got the hand inside it, it's just limp, but with the Almighty running inside, that becomes a potent weapon. And as a survivor and an adventurer, I know that's how we live empowered. So That's been the constant. And I think the book is just a product of trying to live like that. This book came to me a year and a half ago, like that. I woke up in the morning and it was like, clear the decks, clear the decks. You're writing the story. And I look back on the journey now. It's just gone to the #1 in the UK on the Sunday Times bestseller list. Which is beyond my wildest dreams. We're just launching it in the States now. I'm not afraid to shoot for the moon. In fact, shoot for the stars. And if you land sometimes a little short, that's okay. My goal is not my identity in life is not the successes or the failures. My identity in life is that I'm a child of the Almighty through grace, and therefore I can live bold. I can go for things. I can be willing to look a fool. I can be willing to fail, because those things don't carry weight with me. My identity is found somewhere else. So it's how I try and live. And this book, in terms of telling the story of Jesus for a new generation in the way I've done it, is like, I would give up everything you've mentioned. I give up every Man vs. Wild, every Everest summit, every, soldier, thing I did. I give it all up to have done this book, because it's about other people. It's building other people. It's building our future, helping people find home, and it's more important than any of those things. It's not to say I'm not grateful for those things, but they feel like those accolades you talked about, those have been the foundation to be able to write and tell a story with authority that is much bigger than any of that. And that's why I'm proud to have done it, really.
You mentioned as a teenager, was this a significant spiritual moment for you as a teenager?
Yeah, I always had a really natural faith as a young kid. I just knew that something was out there, and it was good, and it was for us. And I couldn't really articulate it more than that. But then I went to school, and I went to a school where, church was very formalized. You'd have to go every day. Most of the service was in Latin, delivered by a guy in a white dress in a pulpit. And I don't know, I just kind of thought, wow, I've got God wrong. God is not wild, cozy, free, empowering, and makes you smile. God is judgmental, is in Latin, and is not relevant. So I let my faith go for many years as an early teenager. And then I remember I was about 16, my godfather died, who I was really close to. He's like my dad's best friend and lived with us a bunch of time. And out of the blue, he died. And I remember just being really, really upset. And one day going down at our school grounds, finding this tree I used to love to climb, and I just getting on my own up right at the top of this thing. And I remember just like saying, I wish you were like as I knew you when I was little. I wish you were like real. It was so good. Amen. And little did I know it. That's the prayer of your life. And it's saying, I need you. I really need you. Be with me. And, nothing dramatic happened, but from little acorns, big oak trees grow, and just things gently started to come into my life. And that presence and that light and that quiet assurance from that moment has never left me. I've had doubts for sure. I still have doubts, to be honest. I woke up the other day and I really question whether any of this is real. It's this whole thing madness. And I regularly have times like that. But the presence of God has never left me. I know that. I know it. And it's been the great truth, the great strength, the great backbone in my life ever since. And I'm still not very churchy, to be honest. I struggle a lot with the formalized side of faith. But I look at faith and doubt, two sides of the same coin. I find church with a few good friends and with my family, saying my prayers in the evening over them. And I know every day we're loved, regardless of what I feel. I know that light is always there. And it's the greatest thing I have. It's the only, to be honest, the only thing I really feel I have. The rest is window dressing.
Well, you couldn't write the book that you wrote without a genuine walk with the living God. For listeners, if you haven't heard of it, it's called The Greatest Story Ever, right? Or Greatest Story Ever Told. Greatest Story Ever Told.
Greatest Story Ever Told, yeah.
Yeah, so when I heard you talk about this book and your goal is to be the greatest selling book of all time, I didn't understand the the subject matter of the book. So when I looked at it, I went, "What greatest story ever? What? Wait, what? This looks like a book of faith." And I started reading it. I haven't read very far, and here's the reason why. When I have somebody who's written something on the aggressive life, I don't read their book ahead of time. I read the book afterwards if I like them.
It's a good way of operating.
No, it is. I'm like, I don't have that much time to do that much reading. Specifically, I want to do the reading I want to do, not always have to do reading this for my job, right? Sometimes you have to do some, but I can't do it all. So I started it though. I said, I want to be a little informed. And I put it down after the first chapters because I said, this is really fresh. This is really, really good. I don't want to power through this. So I can talk about, well, chapter 4, you mentioned. No, I know for myself, for my own spiritual edification, I need to enjoy that book. It's really that good, dude. You wrote that with your own fingers on your own iPad.
I did, yeah. I wrote that with my own fingers, yeah. But I must say I did also have a really good team of theologians supporting me with that, and that became more and more useful and apparent. I wrote the first draft really pretty quick, and then probably spent a year going over and over and over with theologians. But, I'm really proud of that because it's 100% accurate, and so many... I don't know, I got an email yesterday from a top theologian professor, age 75. He goes, I opened this and I thought, oh dear, here we go. This guy, he's not, this is going to have holes in it. And he goes, at the end of it, he goes, I just had a smile on my face and you brought a freshness to my faith that is rare, and you're absolutely on the money with all the theology of it. And I'm really proud of that. At the same time, I got a great message literally about 10 minutes ago from a pastor going, it's like John Grisham was tasked with writing the Jesus story. And, again, that's all we've tried to do here is write this thing accurately and bring the story of Jesus alive for a new generation. Because the truth is most people, even people of faith, they don't often know the story. We know stories. I knew stories like the Good Samaritan or the Nativity, but you get into the real story of Christ, it is wild, and also hardcore, if ever there's a survivor and a man of steel.
Right.
So, one of the things I did before writing this was read the Bible cover to cover 5 times, without missing anything. And it's like just eye-opening of, there has never been a story like this. This whole book is a love story to humanity leading to one person. And I don't know, I just think if you don't have, I'm getting letters all the time also from people of all faiths. And that's been surprising. I've had Muslims in like South America. I've had, people, all faith cultures writing and saying, I had no idea. And they're never going to read the Bible. For us, we love the Bible. It's honey because we're on the inside now. But if you don't know the story of Jesus, I wanted to write it in a way that was really short, really punchy, 2-page chapters, rip through them, 100% accurate, but written as the exciting story it is. And then let the Lord do the rest.
Well, it's got just a really, really good juxtaposition, because you could pick up that book with Greatest Story Ever Told as a seeker or a cynic and just admit it is the greatest story ever told, because it's impacted the world more than anybody. There's not even a close second, third, fourth. If you added up the impact of the second, third, fourth, and fifth most impactful person on the planet, it wouldn't come close to equaling the impact of Jesus, who we date time after, and everybody's universally understanding he's the greatest moral example ever lived, the greatest communicator, all that stuff, right? So you could pick it up and go, yeah, I do want to find that story out. And simultaneously just rattle the cobwebs off our faith, because the longer you're a believer, the more cobwebs you pick. You just pick up spiders. You get a little lazy. You pick up things from the world, and maybe I should doubt that. Oh yeah, maybe there is one of many. Maybe he didn't do. Maybe that didn't happen, and maybe you just get a little lazy. Maybe it's just a worldview. Maybe it's just a philosophy. And a book that's written like yours, it's written in a it's written in a fiction narrative. It's written as a story. It's not a theological book, though the right theology is there. Oh, did someone just poop on you?
No, that's just the seagulls here. There are a lot of birds always.
But it's really fresh, brother. Really, really, really solid. You're one of these guys that just pisses me off because, like, you're not allowed to be good at everything. You're not allowed to be good at climbing and good at new TV genres and a good author. You can't do that, Bear. You can't not be great at everything.
Well, you're very kind. There are a lot of things I'm very bad at, honestly. If you ask my wife about my dancing, she would I feel I fail her every time we have to go near a dance floor. I feel so inadequate in so many ways. But I don't know, I found a few things that I love. And like I said, I've always tried to follow my heart. And actually, whether we're good at stuff is like, I don't know, I don't sweat that stuff so much. I mean, The truth is, I hang out with better survivors, better skydivers, better climbers than me all day, every day. You know, who's better and stuff. I hold that stuff lightly. I think life is a great adventure. We're designed to live it alongside great people, arm in arm, encouraging others, building others up. And I don't know, more and more I see that's where the currency of things are. So I genuinely don't look at it like that. I'll take the compliment and I'm grateful. But yes.
Well, there really is a good juxtaposition that isn't wrestled with enough between the Christian faith and the rugged outdoors. You mentioned before the guy in the white dress and all that stuff with many corners of Christianity. Yeah, it is a much more sanitized, civilized form of faith that is just somewhat unrealistic and unattractive to the average guy. One of the times I went over to Israel, I had a female Jewish guide, and she said, Jesus was a rugged man. He was rugged. He walked miles every day, and he had shoes on that wouldn't support his arches. And he was in the trades. He had unbelievable calluses on his hands. And for that kind of guy, this is a woman who's talking here who's not a believer, but just giving the historicity of it. For that kind of guy to be on a cross, refusing drink while he's on a cross, and yet simultaneously groaning, this is a tough guy, she said. And it was like, okay, I always know that's the Jesus I know, but I think you're the first authority, quote unquote, authority that's ever put it that way, and it's come from somebody who isn't even a believer. There's that piece that I think goes hand in hand with the outdoors life, because Jesus and the disciples they were camping the whole time. There wasn't a lot of hotels around,
and walking and also just think how much time was actually spent just sitting around a fire,
right?
Taking the mick out of each other, laughing, eating, feasting. The best that the religious elite could throw at him was that he was a drunkard and a glutton.
Right.
It's like the real Jesus is so different from the sanitized version, the Christmas version I was brought up with. And it's been a lifetime of unraveling and finding this wild, unschooled, beautiful spirit that, it's like everything I hope God would be.
Yeah.
And yet so often the faith we're kind of presented with from school and institutions is everything that I'd never want in a God. And yet whenever I encounter the real person of Christ, this, as you say, this man of the land, man of people, why did all the regular everyday people just fight to be close to him, just touch the hem of his cloak? Why? What was it that drew people? And why did the elite fear him so much? For me, it's such a compelling story. And the more you look into it, the more it's like the light starts coming onto you. It's like, hold on, this is all of our stories. And it's why I called it the greatest story ever told, not just because, it was never going to be maybe the greatest story ever told. As you said, you look into it as number one by a long way. But secondly, because it also embodies all of our stories. You haven't got into it yet, but you'll see it. It starts off very innocent with Mary as a young 14, 15-year-old girl, sort of scared. And then And it gets hardcore, it goes through sort of Thomas as a real skeptic, and then Peter is this rough fisherman. And, they're all of our stories, whether we're nervous, whether we're excited, whether we're impulsive, whether we're reckless, whether we're arrogant, whether we're cynical, it's all in there. And I like that because it's all of us at the same time at times in our life. And yet the foil we meet every encounter with Christ in his journey of life, healed, empowered, challenged, embraced, transformed.
Right.
It's like, it still blows me away. It really does.
Well, there's a magical thing that takes place when lines get blurred and things that shouldn't go together actually go together really, really well. You mentioned one, the one critique he had all the time was that he was a drunkard and a glutton. Well, why would they accuse him of that? It only is a sound accusation if he ate well and if he drank. I mean, even right there, just mind-blowing. Wait, Jesus drank? Yes, he did. I'm not saying he was getting wasted. That's how they extenuate it. But wait a minute. Someone who eats well, drinks, and is the Son of God and has the deepest, most profound spiritual teaching ever. Those things aren't supposed to go together. Whoa, wait. Those aren't supposed to go together. Wait a minute, hold on. A faith that is mentally rigid, mentally with it, mentally rugged, and going with something that is physically rugged. Wait, aren't the philosophers, theologians supposed to be kind of soft and ethereal? They are, but no, that's where the magic happens. This is why when my faith started coming alive with my friends. You mentioned your friends. Was we were on a motorcycle trip. It's one of the forms of adventure I do, and we're always camping off our bikes. We're trying to get in the middle of nowhere where there aren't people, where there's just difficult trails. We're dropping our bikes left and right, and we're in the middle of Kentucky one night. It's raining. We're camping in the rain. We get up in the morning. It's a little drizzle, but we're still hanging in there and having our coffee, hanging around the fire. And bam, it happened. Somebody opened up about their life and shared something that was very primal and very sacred at the same time. And that launched off this great discussion amongst about 6-7 friends that was just beautiful and transcendent. And I thought to myself, now why aren't more guys having this? How can we get more guys to have this? Because we're not going to be able to get everyone on a motorcycle trip, and they don't have to like motorcycles, but that's where the idea of Man Camp was born. And we said, we need to get guys into a rugged environment where they're pushed, where they're tested, and when they're around a campfire, able to talk and have fun throughout the day. And there was what grew to be 80 kegs of beer, whatever the heck it was, this last one. It keeps going up. And there's this spiritual transformation. It's this mashing where there's potency. And I see that in your life. I think it's your potency. This mashing of like outdoor rugged guy, but man, quiet heart before Christ and wanting to know the finer and deeper things. It's beautiful.
Well, there's a nice quote that says, great things happen when men and mountains meet. That does not happen by jostling in the street. And I like that. There is something, as you say, primal and beautiful about the outdoors and being together and having the space and time and the respect and humility to let the wild do its thing. It's free and it's empowering and it's challenging at times. But it's what I see on the TV show Running Wild that I do. I often wonder, why do all of these, big superstars from all around the world, from presidents to prime ministers to sporting greats to acting greats, why do they want to come and do Running Wild? And I realize it's because the wild empowers, it really does. You sometimes have to face a few fears, and you're going to have to look each other in the whites of your eyes, and you're going to have to, maybe you're sleeping on a cave floor a little bit, but you come out of it at the other end with a light in their eyes that you can't buy. Money fame doesn't give it to you. Drugs aren't going to give it to you. It's a different sort of like quiet confidence, and you've got to earn it.
Right.
And I love that. And I love the fact that you can sit around a campfire, and I now know these guests on Running Wild come ready to share. They want to share the struggles in their life. They want to share the failures. It's not a chat show where you just tell a funny story for 3 minutes and you promote a film and you're off. You know, this is like, let it sit. Let the silence be. You know, take it wherever you want to take this conversation. The wild doesn't judge as well. And the wild has just been, the outdoors has been this consistent, beautiful thing in my life. And I see it every day with my own children and with the TV shows and with scouts. I mean, one of the jobs I've done for many years as chief scout in the UK to all these scouts, you know, the outdoors changes us for the better.
Yep. Completely. Well, and I got to thank the people on Running Wild, coming from the elite sectors of politics and sports and acting and all that stuff. I have to think they start to recognize in those circles, well, in any circle, even in the blue collar mechanical circle, right? Like attracts like, but we need to be plucked and put into a different environment that brings something out of us. And that's what I like about being outside. It's something that I don't experience in my normal day-to-day life. And it actually hardens me and steels me for the real adventures that are really, really difficult that life throws my way. My wife is going through cancer right now. She has breast cancer. She's had a double mastectomy already. We're now in the midst of chemo. And we are doing really well. I hate to say we. I'm not going through. She's going through the hard stuff, right? I'm going through more emotional. She's going through more physical. But we've made it a priority to push ourselves and be in uncomfortable situations on our vacations. And I believe that steeled us to not be as intimidated by this as other people may be and are, because we're used to being uncomfortable. We've chosen that life, and we found great growth there. And we're finding that right now in the midst of our current struggle.
Yeah, it's like that is a muscle inside, isn't it?
Yes.
And like you can't expect to be a never give upper on cue. You know, you have to build that. And first of all, I'm so sorry you're going through that. That's one of life's storms that's coming at you. But you know what? You will come through this. You really will. I'm sure of it. And you'll come through it together even stronger. But it is what storms do. You know, they beat the hell out of us.
Yes.
But at the end of it, we are always stronger. You know, we might not be physically always stronger, but our spirits are stronger through it. And I don't know, it's a daily thing. Like you say, if you train that every day, whether it's having a cold shower or getting outside or training outside or, I don't know, even just like the daily discipline of you know, staying with relationship when you're married, you know, through the hard times, not just cutting and running with things. You know, all of these things are like, it's doing the right thing, doing the difficult thing, but often the right thing. And I think that's the only way we build our resilience inside and out is that daily decision to, you know, to love and to do difficult things. And as human beings, we are designed for that. I think if I know anything, I understand that we are at our best in the fight. You know, God made us good in a struggle. You know, God made us strong when it matters. We might not feel it, but it's like we have this in our DNA. And, you know, when we kind of deny that or walk away from it or kind of fear it or never test it or never train it, you know, we end up weak. And we see that around us a lot as well. You know, you can't expect to be physically strong if you never go to the gym. You can't expect to be mentally and emotionally strong if you only have beautiful times in your life. You can't expect to be spiritually on it if you never read the good book or ever pray. You know, these are obvious truths, but when we get them, it kind of doesn't mean we're always going to get it right, but you stand a fighting chance in life then.
Right. Yeah, I find it really weird that I look for difficult things when I'm outside. I don't want to stay at a certified public campground, which is fine to do, and I have done that. But I like to get into places that are going to be hard. They're going to be difficult. I do whitetail hunt out of a blind, which is pretty easy. But I like to go elk hunting and camp and climb things, and I find myself opting into me and my friends opting into these things that are really, really hard. And yet, when something hard happens in my life, I recoil at it. And I hate that. I should be doing those things just to prepare me for the true adventures that are hard, that are emotionally hard in life, like when there's an unexpected diagnosis that you don't want to have. I've got to embrace the difficulty, embrace the suck in all areas of life, right?
Well, you are doing. You don't recoil from it. You're in it, and you're fighting, and you're looking up, and you're drawing strength from above, and you're leading your family. You're doing it. Be encouraged. I think you're incredible. Well done. Good for you. I mean, it's that is a real life journey. But then sometimes when we look back, it's like, look how you've been prepared for this time.
Yeah.
Maybe everything for you is for this time right now, and we're stronger than we think. And also there's that beautiful verse in the Message Bible, the version in the Beatitudes, where it goes, we're blessed when we're at the end of our rope.
Right.
With less of us, there's more of God. And that's a great line. I've hung on to that many times in my life. And be encouraged. You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Thank you, Bear. As you're interacting with people on Running Wild, do you see that folks are going back and living life any different, or does this seem to be like a one-off thankful experience that they have?
I think generally it sort of stays with them. I've made so many wonderful friends over the years through that show. And the common thread is that people always say it's transformational, and the wild is the star of that. It's not the show. It's not the wild is the hero. The wild does that. So I think it's very different from for these stars going to shoot a movie. Or I remember that one of the first ones we ever did was with Jake Gyllenhaal. And he said, do you know what? I feel closer to you and your crew after 2 days of surviving this Iceland hurricane in February and minus whatever, digging snow case, fighting for our life, than I do on this film. We spent 6 months. I was with the crew every day, and they were amazing. But it's a different sort of bond,
right? And
that's what the wild does. It's intense at times, and it's sharp. But the bonds are strong, and I really think the Lord made it like that. Made nature like that as humans, and I think maybe as men as well. I mean, it's not really a gender thing, but it's like all of us. We're designed to come alive in the struggle, in the fight. It's how we've thrived as a species. And, you're not empowering yourself to deny that in yourself. It's like nothing to apologize for. Embrace it. God made you for the fight. It's like, it's okay to step up and,
right.
It's like, go for it. We're designed for that. I think sometimes the faith communities can be a little softly as like, oh, not quite, it's like, we shouldn't be timid spirits.
Right.
We should be kind and gentle and humble and sensitive, but we should have warrior spirits because we fight with the resources of heaven.
God gave us not a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline, says the Apostle Paul. Power, love, and self-discipline. This is a big deal.
That's a great verse right there. That's a winner.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And the other thing I learned through reading the Bible all these times for this book is that there's one command more than any other command. I think it was like, I counted 365 times in the Bible, this one command, which is do not be afraid. It's like we don't have to live life in fear.
Now, as a preacher,
we're gonna mess up, maybe, but no, we don't need fear.
Now, my day job is preaching, and as a preacher, I've quoted that. And I've always hoped it was true. I've never actually counted. You actually counted. It is 365?
365. I mean,
unbelievable.
Listen, I might have missed one. Maybe, but I got it at 365. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a big deal. Well, I was just hearing someone speak the other day, and they dropped another one on me. They said, we talk about the dominant metaphor of God in the book of Psalms being a shepherd, that he is a shepherd. And he certainly is. He certainly is. But that shows up 4 times in the book of Psalms. God being a warrior shows up 100 times. And it seems like we always self-select the soft, cozy metaphors, the, emotionally cuddly metaphors. And we are revolted by the dominant metaphors in the Bible, which are around difficulty, adventure, war, That's really what the spiritual life is. Now, I know that I have a comforter because the Holy Spirit is a comforter inside of me. And I know my Heavenly Father is a shepherd. I know that. And he does all those things because he wants me to be able to be in the fight with him.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's been the story of religion over the last 2,000 years, is
Right.
putting grace, trying to put grace in a bottle and in a folder, and with a set of rules and guidelines, and before you know it, you have something that's really a man construct.
Right.
And I think so much of my life has been unraveling that, is actually reconnecting with the heart of faith that is wild, free, empowering, and designed to help us thrive and live a life of love and adventure. And, it's okay to keep it simple.
Yes.
It's like, again, humans want to complicate everything, but actually look at his disciples. I mean, the other shocking thing for me was realizing this book that I've written about from the perspective of his disciples. The average age of the disciples was 15 to 25. I always thought they were like 65. So you see pictures of St. Peter with his big beard. And,
Right.
but the average age was 15 to 25. These were kids without a clue.
Well,
And it's like, it's okay. It's okay.
even be
You don't
more
have to have it
specific
all
with you,
together.
none of the disciples except Peter was over 18. Peter's the only one who's over 18, and the reason we know that is when Jesus goes down to get the temple tax through one of the miracles, he says to Peter, go down to the water shore, and he gets a coin out of a fish's mouth to pay the temple tax for Peter and Jesus, and you only had to pay the temple tax if you were 19 and above. So the other 11 didn't need to pay the temple tax. So yeah, they're all young. They're all youngsters, and yet you're right. If you want to be a leader in the average church, you got to have gray hair and be 70.
And have it all together,
right?
Which is not a good model for life, because it makes people think I'm not that guy, actually, because I struggle with this or that, and I can't say that because I'll get judged. So that's the unraveling all of us have to continually do, is not present a model that is like perfect, but like church is a hospital of broken souls coming together, finding light, love, acceptance, and empowerment under the Almighty.
What I love about the conversation with you, Baron, I'm getting ready to wind her down here, is I love how so often we think we have somebody typecast in a specific place. Like I just admit, I had you typecast into just an outdoor adventurer, nature guy, which is a fine place to be. There's nothing wrong with that. There's this whole other side to you that I've just learned over the last, 2 months. I was like, wow, that, I wouldn't say shocking, like I never saw you being able to be that. It's just a really different thing that's really refreshing, and just speaks to probably the potency of why you've been able to be a trailblazer where you've been, is because you've had a strength and a depth that is beyond what someone would just assume someone would be like. So well done, man. I'm excited how God's moving your life and what he's doing.
Thank you. Thing is, only just getting going. This is the beginning. We're called to build a community and to change the world and to be light and salt in the world. And it's why it's why I wanted to do this with you. I don't do many of these. I want to do it with key influencers and leaders for young men and women around the world to find life at a time where there's a generation of young people who are anxious and fearful.
Right.
I want to be able to speak into that with power, with great people. And this book is the beginning of that. It's the beginning. Shoot me a text when you finish it, and I'm excited to hear your reaction.
Well, the book is called The Greatest Story Ever Told. I can't recommend it enough from what I've read. And Aggressive Life alumni community. I have people on the podcast who will talk about the book, but I don't tell you it's really great. You should read the book. I'm telling you that. You'll be really refreshed and pushed and everything else positive if you read that book. It's really good, written by who I now call my friend, Tiger Hammer. My friend, Bear Grylls. I have. It's been a really, really rich time, Bear. Is there anything else you want to say or talk about that we haven't talked about?
No, just to say thank you and love and blessings to you. Keep shining bright, and I'll include you in my prayers for all you're going through. But and God willing, I'm gonna hopefully make it a man camp. If it's not this year, if anything happens, we will definitely be there at one point. But the plan is to be there, God willing, this year.
Come on, Bear. Come on.
Yeah, we're excited.
Well, you're already in my prayers. Prayers, you're going to cut through all your agent's BS and just freaking sign the contract. You're already in my prayers.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, Bear's got a significant filming schedule, a lot of complications. So we're honored that we're in talks. It's going to be great. So thanks, man. Thanks for being a good guest and being a new friend. I appreciate you, brother.
You're a star. Take care, buddy. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.
Man Camp is coming. What is Man Camp? It's a 3-day experience, which you may have been waiting for your whole life. You didn't even know it. It's a 3-day experience of camping, of encouragement, of pushing, of receiving, of laughing, of beers, of physical engagement, relational opportunities. It is phenomenal, as is seen by the fact that people from all over the country, all over the world, come to South Ohio every year for this event, and I want you to be there. Your life could be the better for it. It could be the greatest weekend, actually, of your life. You can go to mancamp.us to find out more, and I want to make it easy on you. If you enter podcast 15 on that mancamp.us website, we'll get you 15% off. I want this for you. I don't want anything from you. I want this for you. I want this for your life and anybody else in your life and on your downline, because your life is going to be improved on this weekend. Let's see you then. Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and more at briantome.com. My new book, a 60-day devotional called The 5 Marks for Man, 60 Days to a Powerful Life, along with all the other books in the 5 Marks library, are open right now on Amazon. Be sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Then send an email to dirt, that's dirt, at briantome.com to get a free Aggressive Life sticker. Find more on Instagram at Brian Tome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.